Yo, what's up YouTube? Alright, so we got the ass end of this Volvo all pulled apart. Doing a little modification to this trailing arm, making it adjustable. Because, you know, with the Volvo, for some reason from the factory, the axle ain't very well centered in the wheel well, which kind of gives you some issues when it comes time to slam the thing. Because you end up getting tires rubbing all back here. And nothing up here, you know, you didn't even have to roll it up here. Just tires doing nothing. But I figured since I had it all ripped apart, I'd kind of give you a little rundown on this 8.8 swap. And but yeah, just assuming that you have your axle will start at the beginning. Fresh Ford axle pulled out of a Ford Explorer. First thing you want to do with that, I guess, would be throw it up on some jack stands, take the cover off, you know, flip it, let it drain for an hour or two, pull the axles, pull both axles, pull both wheel seals, let it sit on the side for a while, just let all the oil drain out of the tubes, all that stuff, and just clean the fuck out of it. Inside, I used what is it called? How is it called? Super Clean. Yeah, I use Super Clean from Walmart. That stuff works great. Cuts through all the grease and old oil and stuff. So yeah, just clean out all the axle tubes as good as you can, and then of course when you're in the junkyard, you want to take one of the passenger side axle tubes, you know, from another Explorer, and put that in the driver's side while you're there. Don't even say anything to them about it, you know, just throw it in there. And when you get home, you know, of course, it won't work because you didn't shorten the tubes yet. Sorry, it's kind of windy, I don't know if this is going to work, but yeah, get home, throw it up on jack stands, drain everything, clean everything. Cut your original mounting tabs and brackets off. I found the best way to do that is with a Sawzall. I tried using a grinder, but it was making a huge mess, you know, throwing sparks, metal dust all over the place, getting metal dust in my eyes. It's not fun. So fuck the grinder. Sawzall's the way to go. You know, just get it cut as close as possible, and then use a grinder with a flap wheel to get it flush. And then, you know, you want to leave yourself, when you make the cut, you want to leave yourself some room, because you're going to be putting this angle iron on there, you know. Get 2 or 3 pieces, put it on there, and then wrap it with hose clamps, and that'll get you straight when it comes time to weld the sucker back up. You know, it's worked fine for me. It's probably not the best way to do this. You know, you're probably supposed to use like a jig or something. But, you know, this works, fuck it. And, yeah, so somewhere around here you want to make the cut on the original axle. And then what you want to cut out is, I believe it's 2.875 inches. So what I did to get that cut as straight and perfect as possible was put some hose clamps on the axle. One here, you know, one here, or whatever. And just get the distance between the hose clamps, you know, exactly 2.875 with a caliper or whatever, and just use the hose clamps as a guide for your Sawzall, and slowly work around it with your Sawzall, rotating the axle, you know, try to keep it as straight as possible. And yeah, eventually, you know, you just cut right through it. After you do that, you put a bevel on it, 45-degree bevel, like a 50% bevel, and throw that angle iron on there, clamp it all up, make sure you keep it indexed correctly, like get a Sharpie or a scribe and make a good line before you cut it, of course. And make a line so that you can index it correctly and all your brake hardware will be on there where it's supposed to be. And then you know, put it back together with the hose clamps and the angle iron, and weld that bitch up. I did it in 4 separate welds, opposing welds to try to keep the warpage down so the tube didn't go all wacky. And yeah, once you got that done, you know, clean it all off, sand it, and then you're on to putting the stock Volvo brackets back on this sucker, or not back on it, but on it. And what I did for that was, with the stock axle, one second. You can see here, you know, just cut them off, completely cut them off. Just easier that way. At least I found that. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, cut those brackets off. After you cut them off, you'll want to clean them up, you know, put the right radius on them, because this axle is like 3 inches in diameter and the stock one's like 2 or something. It's way smaller. And what would be best for that would be a plasma cutter, oxyacetylene torch, you know, something like that. I didn't have any of that, so I just used a freaking grinder, and it took like an hour per bracket to make this damn thing fit the radius. It's horrible. I really recommend using a grinder or a oxyacetylene or a plasma cutter or something, because it just takes forever at the grinder. It's just horrible. But yeah, after you get those brackets all, you know, trimmed up, matching the radius and everything, then what I did, I don't know if this is like the right way or not, but this is just what I did and it worked. I had the cover off, I had the, you know, all the guts out, the gear, the ring gear and all that, the pinion, and I just got a freaking a level, or any flat piece of metal, you know, and I put the level across here, and you can see this is straight on the back, and this is straight, so I just got the level, put it way out here, and that kind of lined it up like that. And then of course all you have to worry about then is the width. I can't remember the exact measurement, the width between these perches. You should definitely measure that before you cut them off the stock axle. Take lots of measurements before you cut any of the brackets off. Lots and lots of measurements. But it's something like 50 something inches between the brackets, I think. Maybe it's 40 something, I don't know. Measure it. But yeah. So put the freaking level on there, and then put that on there, and they'll kind of automatically line up. And just throw a few tacks on it. Throw a few tacks on that one too over there, you know. And after you got it tacked up, put the whole thing in the car with the trailing arms and everything, and jack the axle up to where you think the ride height's going to be, you know. Just get it close with everything hooked up on the bottom. Of course your torque arms won't be hooked up yet. You hook those up after, but or they're hooked up but they're not welded up. So you jack the axle up to where you think your ride height's going to be. Just get it close, because we can always dial it in with the panhard bar. So get it close, line it up left and right. I just used the frame to the hub, you know. I had a straight edge, came out, and then measured off the frame. It's not super accurate, but we can always dial that in later, so it doesn't fucking matter. But yeah, it gets you close, so that'll get you left and right. And set your pinion angle. You know, I use a Harbor Freight digital angle gauge. I just slapped that sucker on the other side. There's like a flange you can measure off of on the side. I'm not sure if you're supposed to measure off that, but it looked like it was parallel with the pinion, so that's what I measured off. And yeah, set your pinion angle, get that all dialed in. Do all this before you weld. Get it exactly where you want it. Go to the other side. So yeah, get your pinion angle set and get the left right set, make sure everything's exactly where you want it, and then hook up your panhard bar, hook up the torque arms and all that, and just let the bracket sit where it needs to sit, and you know it'll be where it needs to be because your torque arms hooked up, pinion arm or radius arms hooked up, and then after that's all set, throw a few tacks on it. Go around to the other side, throw a few tacks on it. Of course, you know, keeping the measurements all where they need to be. But alright, that's pretty much it for mounting, I think. Take it back out, you know, weld it up, completely weld it up, and yeah, you should be set for the mounts. Now you don't have to get it like exactly fucking dead on, because I have another video where I show you how to make these adjustable torque arms, and that exact same thing applies to the panhard rod. So you can see there, I did the same thing there. It's working fucking great. So you can dial in your left and right, and you can dial in your pinion angle. If you don't get the brackets welded on perfectly, it's not the end of the world. You can always dial it in. And you can also dial in your the axle where it's sitting in the car, I guess you'd say. You know, because it's not centered in the wheel well, which is what I'm working on right now. I got one side done already. Check it out. Put in this Heim right here. Yeah, that's nice. See, that's what I'm going to be making a video of right now too, so. Yeah, adjustable trailing arm. Get your axle all dialed in. I guess we'll move on to the brakes. Talk about the brakes for a second. Okie dokie, we'll talk about the brakes right now. When you're at the junkyard pulling this Ford axle, you want to make sure that you pull an extra passenger side hose. You can kind of see it there. Yeah, you want two of those total. You want one for the driver's side, one for the passenger side. The reason for that being that the driver's side one has a block on it, like a junction block. So there's 3 holes on it. One, the main line in, the line out for the driver's side, the line out for the passenger side. Now, with the way Volvo does it is, I guess I'll say the way Ford does it, is they have one line going to the back of the car or truck, and then it splits on the axle and goes to both sides of the axle. The way Volvo does it is they have 2 lines going to the axle, and they split on the axle, well, they split right here, and one goes to the driver's side, one goes to the passenger side. Now, you could use the Ford deal, but you'd have to plug off one of these hoses, and there is the brake failure light. I don't know if it having any effect on that. Brake fail light, or whatever it is. You know, when it detects an imbalance in pressure in the system, it'll turn the light on. And that might go all wonky if you plug one of those. I don't know. I figured, don't even bother messing with it. Just stick with the way Volvo did it. So what I did was, I cut the brake bracket off the Volvo axle, welded it onto the Ford axle. Kind of see it there. Worked perfect. And then went to AutoZone, got some solid line, bent it all up, you know. Got it going over the pumpkin there. Got it all bent up. Let's see it coming around the perch here. And then I welded on these brackets to kind of clean it up a bit. You can kind of see it there. Just some pieces of steel angle iron or steel channel. Tacked them on there. And welded a nut behind that so that you could bolt down that brake hose. And another thing you gotta watch out for is on these Ford axles, or Ford calipers, you can see right there, there used to be this boss that came off, and it would sit on the back of this, and it would only allow it to be angled in one direction, straight back, which is straight into the freaking springs. Not gonna work. So grind that off with a grinder. Of course, you want to plug the caliper first with some paper towel or something. You don't want metal dust getting in your caliper. Definitely don't want that. So plug it off, grind the boss off, and then you could rotate this 360 degrees, wherever the hell you need it. So yeah, do that. And do the same thing for the other side. I'll go over there and show you how that side's set up. Yeah, did the same thing over here. Welded on a bracket, all that good stuff. Got the hard line running. Kind of hard to see it. Got it running over the top there. But same deal. Grind the boss off, then you can rotate it wherever the hell you need it. And yeah, that's the brakes. The parking brake. I haven't figured out the parking brake yet. So right now these are just kind of dangling with zip ties. I'll work on that a bit later. The main part about this that's hard to figure out is you need a way to attach the forward ends to this Volvo cable. Now, you can probably buy some kind of special crimping tool or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's the difficulty here. The Ford ones are slotted. They're about that much longer, and it's a slot. The Volvo ones, they have a pin and they're round. So they're not compatible, they won't work. Gotta figure that out still. But that's about it for the brakes. So now we'll move on to the drive line, to the drive shaft and all that good stuff. Alright, let's talk about the drive line here for a minute. This part is pretty straightforward. There are a couple little snags. As you can see here, I cut 3/4 of the drive line out, 3/4 of an inch. And I used the same trick as with the axle, the two pieces of the angle iron to line it back up with the hose clamps, all that good stuff. But the reason I did that is because I guess the nose on this is just too long, or it's longer than the stock one. So if you don't cut it, now I drove around for a few days with it uncut, and just like trying to get this yoke onto this flange with it uncut is pretty difficult, because even with the slip joint fully in, there's barely enough room to get this fucker on there, because there's like a hub in the middle, like a raised portion, and yeah, drive shaft's too long, barely fits on. And you got to think that when the suspension compresses, it gets even longer, because the slip joint has no more give in it. It's done. It's bottomed out. And I was thinking that might be forcing the drive shaft straight into the transmission, which is not good. Definitely not good. So, cut out 3/4 of an inch. Figure that'll be good. So give me some play in the slip joint. And for the U joint here, that kind of turned into a pain in the ass. With AutoZone, got a conversion U joint, which is a 1310 to a 1330, which is what the Ford pinion takes, the yoke. And I read online that the Volvo axle was a 1310, but as I come to find out here, it's not. It's even smaller. It's like a 1300 or something, just a tiny thing. And I don't know, you might be able to find a conversion joint for 1300 to 1330, I didn't even look. I just ended up using this thing. You can use it, it's just that it's wider, so you can't get the C-clips back in. So instead of C-clips, I just kind of threw a few tacks on there to hold the cups in, and it seems to be working okay. Knock on wood, I mean, it seems fine. But yeah, that's what we did for the drive line here, for the drive shaft. Nothing too crazy. So that's pretty much it. I mean, if you're going to be putting any real power through this, you don't want to be ghetto like this. You don't want to do a cut and weld here. You want to get a real drive shaft made. This is just to get me down the road for now, because I still have the stock engine in it, and you know, it doesn't make any power, so it doesn't fucking matter. It's not gonna mess this up. But once you do a swap, turbo it, you know, throw a V8 in it, this is all going in the garbage anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're gonna use this as, you know, a daily driver and shit, you definitely want to get a real drive shaft made, not this ghetto shit. But this works for now. It's actually surprisingly well balanced. I mean, on the freeway there's no vibration, so that turned out great. And of course, before you cut it and shorten it, make sure you make an indexing line across, because you do not want the U-joints to be out of phase with each other, or else it's just gonna explode. It's gonna be horrible. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the drive shaft. Not too crazy.